live. Hello, everybody. This is Kalina. I am here with Jessica Angileri today. We have a beautiful, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today. Beautiful. We are here today to talk about the feminine capacity to heal through pleasure. So, wow. So let me first, I feel like I need to introduce Jessica, but before I do that, I have to talk about pleasure and my journey with pleasure very briefly, because I've come from a background where I was, I've been on this mission, like this self-healing thing, like digging in, like, really working to elevate myself. Or I've been doing different types of yoga and Kundalini and teaching Kundalini for a couple of decades. And I was really up against a wall with this physical stuff that I was not getting out of my body. And, that really changed when I learned how to access pleasure. And I learned like what real pleasure actually is, because our world wants us to believe that pleasure is seeking something outside of yourself. It's really not. That's just seeking. That's just totally a different energy. So tapping into self-love, pausing. So pleasure to me is the ability to pause in the moment and allow self-love to be present. And this energy feeds all the things. It brings any practice that you're using into your inner realms where you can meet all the parts of yourself. This is my experience with it. Like I felt like I was still blocking and holding that tension in my hips and my spine. And, yoga would tell me to sit up straight and do this. And I was doing it with such like masculine energy that I hadn't given a chance to the flow and the feminine. And I had no idea I was so out of my feminine. But, in this world, we have to do a lot of masculine things. We have to pay the bills. We have to go to work. We've got to even raising the kids can become a masculine thing. And then in that energy, I was feeling like I was resisting and fighting through life. And my life changed when my pilot wave could be re-understood that I'm naturally a source of pleasure. I don't have to run my life from pain and trying to push pain away when I can receive if I can tap down and root into pleasure on a daily basis. So that's my personal understanding of pleasure. I met beautiful Jessica in Janita's program, actually, Feminine Empress program, where we worked with pleasure and pain and warrior and lover and mother and all the deep energy work. So she and I really got connected there, and we've been connecting with each other in this feminine practice since then. And she's been such an incredible blessing to me, to have in my circles, to show up for her circles, to be present for, oh my goodness. And also the permission that she has given me in relationship to really follow my dreams, my wants. Religion tells us that desire is the root of all suffering. But I say seeking is the root of all suffering. Grasping outside of ourselves is the root of all suffering. We can go farther into that, but that's not today's conversation. We're talking about pleasure. How can we call ourselves back in with pleasure? And how does that take root in our systems? This is Jessica. So she is a women's teacher. She has beautiful programs to help women get more relaxed into their pleasure as an innate way of being, rather than, something we put on. We don't put on our feminine and show the world that we are that essence, and it naturally exudes from us. And this is like the gift that Jessica really brings home to me. So she's such a gift in my life. I'd love to have you introduce yourself even better. I'm not a pro at my great introductions. It's more for me that I can connect with the energy. then remember every single detail that I want to say. So please share some more about yourself and what was going on in your life when pleasure really came into the picture as, something that was important.
Thank you so much. That was just touched me in so many ways. I just felt my pleasure open just with your little introduction. So thank you. And I'm feeling pleasure in just feeling and being here. So with that, these spaces, I thank you for that, because it allows us women to tap into something really ancient within us, ignite this ancient wisdom that connects us. And what connects us is that thread of life, which is love, which is pleasure, which is truth. So I thank you for this and that beautiful introduction. My work is devoted to this embodiment of what that means, and this idea of returning home to this truth of who we are, this knowing, and to embrace all the aspects of our knowing. And part of that is through sensuality, through pleasure, and to help awaken women and expand into this full capacity to experience life and to know their own inner erotic self, which is every woman's birthright, to know this, to feel into this, and not to know that this is the place of liberation. As you said, this is where we really deeply connect with ourselves, but this isn't common for us women in this modern world. And it wasn't for me, that's for sure. I've always been very connected to what the feminine means. I've always been surrounded by beauty. I love beauty. I try and be, not try, I've always stepped into what the embodiment of beauty means. The thing is, I didn't know how to utilize my own sexuality and sensuality in ways that were nourishing for me. Instead, I gave that away. And when I would give that away, especially to men for validation, I was on this search for, I think, what most of us are searching for, which is love, which is it's this fabric to life. It's this thread that connects us deeply. And so because I was giving my own source of freedom away, really, I was feeling trapped in my own body. Didn't look like that on the outside because I came across as very confident and very put together. But no, I was dealing with my own self-limiting beliefs, my own anxieties, and my anxieties is what was leading my life. And then that's how I was moving through my relationships.
Ooh, that I just want to pause with, like, the anxiety was actually what was leading my life. Like, I that was so true for me as well. And I had no idea that was the case because it just felt normal.
Right.
Wanted to pause with that for a second.
Yeah, especially when that's how we've lived our life, probably most of our life.
And our parents did, like,
right.
The culture does. There's nothing around us that says, wait, that's actually not the most soulful, self-serving way and serving of others. Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah. And when you are leading from that space, that disassociated, misaligned space, you attract, you magnetize situations and people and relationships that are there to maybe continue teaching those lessons of where you need to continue returning back home, and to remember your own source of power, and to remember that love and that source of freedom which is within you. So this all shifted for me when I heard some drums playing on the street one day, and it was a festival that was happening, and there were all these beautiful dancers. You probably know who they are. They are Brazilian samba dancers. So if you don't know what that is, they are, it's a beautiful cultural traditional dance in Brazil, which incorporates a lot of some African inspired movements, along with carnival, that expressive, flamboyant, those movements, hip movements, everything is related to the hips and sensuality and the body. And so I saw these women dancing, and they're wearing these beautiful feathers and wearing almost nothing. And I just thought, wow, to be so beautifully confident in the way that they own their body and move in such a way, I'm going to be that. And this is the power of the woman. We declare, we decide, and when you do that, it happens. And so after a couple of years of my own dedication to this, I became a professional samba dancer. And I had no dance experience, no dance background. And that just proves that a woman can do anything. When you are ignited with a fire, ignited with that passion, that electricity in your body, you can be and do and step into really what your heart desires. This didn't come from ego, because it made no sense. Like, no one in my friendship groups, or my background is Italian, so there's no connection there, but I felt really connected to this dance, and it awakened me. And for the first time, I felt alive, because it felt invigorating and dangerous. And I felt liberated, because it unleashed a power that was in my hips. And I didn't realize how much tension and how much I was holding within my hips. And so there was this electricity that became ignited, and it unleashed the truth of who I was. I became this fierce, beautiful goddess. I stepped into her and I was in awe of her. And I just thought, wow, where was this woman all these years? And so I started to live from this space of aliveness and this vibration, this juice, this deliciousness. I felt it in my body. And again, I declared that from now on, I move from that space. I move from the space of my sexual energy being ignited with sensuality, with deliciousness. And so when I moved to Mexico, in Tulum, I was in Tulum, and I started to teach this dance to the women in circles, and combined with erotic movement and sensual movement. And I realized something, that this was missing in feminine healing spaces. It wasn't a dance. It's not the movement part. It's nothing about choreographies or perfection. What was missing was this permission for women to connect with this full spectrum of who they are, and to ignite this power within themselves. And this is something that, like you said, we seek from the external, this erotic, pleasure, sensual aspect. We're hiding this. It's in all of us. A lot of women come to me and they say, I'm not sensual, I'm not sexual. You are. Every woman is, because I've seen it awakened in every woman. And then when you understand as well how to use that in a way with presence and structure and intention, that's when you discover your true potential, and how this is a medicine to creating life, to creating the life that you desire. Because your erotica, this ability to step into your full expressive magnetic nature, this is where you are inspired. This is where you expand and tune into more desires that are given to you from your highest self. This creative power and energy that every woman encompasses. This is what I love seeing. I love seeing women ignite this, so then they then know how that informs how they move through different facets of their life, because this is a very powerful part of who you are. And I think it connects most of us women as well.
I agree. And there's such a difference in the nervous system and in our groundedness and our ability to deal with triggers when like pleasure starts to just seep in there and take root. And I feel like women are especially set up for this. Women's energy is circular. We're very self-completing. It's like yogic science, you know, women are circular and self-completing, men are linear and focused. So we both bring different gifts to the table. And of course, we all have our inner masculine and inner feminine. So this is not just men and women, and everybody does deserve pleasure and dropping in. And please don't mind my dog on the other side of the door. He does not like to be on the wrong side of the door. If you hear any scratching and stuff. But I just wanted to say, the safety and the confidence with which I can approach life is absolutely transformed when I've learned to stop life and root into my pleasure in order to proceed with anything. And I had to go through that process because I was so naturally seeing how far I could push the pain and like how much more I could do when, you know, just finding like my natural measure is what's essential for me to be healthy and happy and be able to be like calm and loving with my kids and my lovers, my partner. That does imply to have lots of lovers, and I don't, but hey,
oh, my lovers.
My goal is to be a huge lover of all of life. But all we really need as far as lovers is ourselves. Everything else overflows from that. But if we don't take on ourselves as the lover first, how can that overflow? It's never going to, because we're giving from an empty cup. Exactly.
And this pleasure, when you understand how to drop into that, into your body, brings presence. You understand how to live moment to moment rather than what's happening next. What is he doing? What happened?
Right? And planning everything out steps and steps in advance. It's all up here. And we got to get out of here and bring it down here.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, because this is also where we connect the story with the emotion and keep spinning out negative emotions into new stories and creating negative patterns in our life from the old story. So it's a great way to stop the story. You know, if I just really cannot get out of the stories and I'm just projecting, and I'm also like too triggered to sit down and force myself to meditate in this masculine way, put some music on. Move in circular motions, like breathe in the nose and out the mouth, like just the feminine way. We're going to be going live next week in the pleasure and sensuality circle to tap into some more tools to do this. They're simple. We all have access to them, you know, and however you feel in the beginning, it may be uncomfortable, you know. If it's new and you have not identified yourself as a pleasure-filled being yet, like we all get to have that opportunity. And we're blessed because we get to witness people coming into it. That's kind of like, I get such chills when I see people coming in with pain and releasing that into pleasure. And it's not that we're just like letting go of the pain. With pleasure, I feel like that's the alchemy. that's where we take what pained us and turn it into, how we can access our own pleasure, how we can stand, here and,
Yes.
and be solid but soft. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. You're exactly right. And I always say that it's going back, before I move on to what I was about to say, doing these practices, simple pleasure, sensual practices, when you are feeling restrictive or afraid, these are the exact moments where you look into that. This is a moment for expansion, for understanding more of who you are. And you realize this must be something that I've been denying. There must be something else here. And you realize the gift of expanding more into your own truth and your own knowing, which is that you're beautiful, radiant goddess. And that's what pleasure does. It offers yourself to the divine, which is a gift. It's an offering to love. I always say the divine is love. It allows you to come back to this space of wholeness and the totality of you, rather than getting stuck in those stories that we were saying, and the pain and the suffering. And we're not denying pain, we're not denying suffering, but we don't have to stay there. There are ways to live from this space of softness and nourishment and gentleness. What were you going to say?
Oh my, this just like providing ourselves the opportunity to like so gently surrender those storylines and thought processes and pains, surrendering that over to the divine. It's never was ours to have to carry. We were just taught to, and like the more we can just so gently surrender that and surrender it and surrender it and surrender it, it doesn't mean that we don't have the masculine power. Actually adds to our power to be solid and know exactly what direction we're going. We're not in our heads like, oh, should it be that? Should I be this? What am I?
Exactly. And then in that, you begin to live from that space of aliveness with purpose. You attune to that raw animal, primal essence of you, as well as intention, and you blossom open, this flower that you are, that's being closed and restricted. And every time you energize this pleasurable natural state of you allow your yoni as well to open in natural ways. You realize you don't need to force anything into her, your vagina. She opens to a lover, just like pleasure is that offering to your lover, which is your highest self. So you're engaging in this openness, so then your life becomes open to whatever it is that you need to magnetize that is aligned to your heart, to your desires.
The thing that just dropped in for me while you were speaking was that pleasure is actually that essence that marries our animal self and our divine self. A lot of spiritual practices are like, push the animal self away, don't be that, only be this. And we are embodied beings. We are meant to use and experience and enjoy our bodies as a vessel. This is our operating system. And we can operate it from pain if we want to, but it's not very fun and it doesn't get us very far. We have no capacity to be still and magnetize our inherent desires to us.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also this truth of love. It's like you're saying when you're experiencing pleasure and you're melting into your body and you're feeling the deliciousness and the juice of life, whether it's through your breath, that that melting into that feeling of, this is me, this is who I am, and I'm rooted in this, and I love me, I love you. It's like you're communicating with your soul, and saying, hey, I see you, I feel you, I know you're there, let's do this together.
And pleasure is the soul's language, isn't it? The soul doesn't speak to us in pain. The ego only speaks to us in pain. Interesting. So if we're spinning out storylines that hurt us, that's not your soul speaking to you. Soul doesn't talk to you like that ever.
And this will also, you will feel it in the way that you speak and the way that you hold yourself, the way that you move through life. So if you're moving through life from that pain, from that mind clutter, from the feelings of unworthiness, you project that into the world. The more that you live and you drop into this depth of your love through your pleasure, the more you awaken that juice, the more you awaken beauty, the more that you see beauty, the more that life becomes vibrant, the more that you know yourself, you know how you're being and moving and feeling and doing in life, because you've allowed yourself to practice that medicine of pleasure, which brings you into this moment to moment feeling.
And pleasure creates consistent grounding energies in your body. You know how in the New Age community, ground, protect, protect, protect. For me, pleasure does that. It protects me from my own choices, and it protects me from my own negative energies. So it helps me start to create new neural pathways. So I'm able to sign off of that storyline, create a new reality in my body. And the music just gives me the permission to go a little farther and be a little bit more sensual with it. And that permission, it's the liberation into self-love. Like without anchoring into pleasure and self-love, as many partners as you have could never fulfill you. Once you access that in yourself, it really doesn't matter if you have a partner or not, because you feel complete and present and in the moment, and all the things can come to you that you want. So you're no longer reaching and grasping and wondering and hoping, and is that the one, or dating all these people and hashing it all out in your brain. You're just present, and the right thing can come to you.
Exactly. And then you expand yourself into what it is that you're able to hold, what it is. You start to explore this bigger capacity of what truth means. And then with that, your standards rise as well. Your standards, the way that you hold yourself, the way that you stand, your integrity as well. And then with that, you begin to radiate and magnetize in a very effortless way. This is one of the reasons why my own partner said he was drawn to me. It was the way that I was able to feel and see life and really experience life in its wholeness, in its totality, the way that I moved, the way that I was so present and grounded in my body, but at the same time, I was very free in the way that my heart was open. I felt safe to be open. I was safe to be vulnerable, but it's only because I had worked on my own capacity to trust myself, and that occurred with my own sensuality, my own pleasure practices, because I practiced what it meant to be coming from that place of wholeness and softness and gentleness. And that was my gift. That was my gift. I didn't have to pretend. I didn't have to fight my way and compete with other women to get a man's attention. Or my natural essence, your natural essence, is your unique juice. This is needed in the
So
world.
much.
And the more that we activate it, the more we drip this juice into these lands that are so dried up. The
Right?
world
It
doesn't
sounds
need
so erotic, and it kind of is. And I just feel the need to clarify for somebody out there, pleasure practice is not a vibrator. It's a totally different thing. You know, it's slow and it's gentle and it's connected. And that's a different discussion for another day.
Definitely. I can
Yeah,
go
it's
there,
not
but
what we've been taught about our sexuality. You know, battery's not needed. You are that. You're tapping into your own energy, you know. So it's a very, very, very different thing. And I'm so glad that you mentioned about your relationship too, because I was just going to bring that in, and because you're such an inspiration for relationships and approaching the relationships from the feminine. And we're finally realizing, and men are starting to speaking about how much they're missing the feminine and how masculine women have become, you know, and this normally is to our detriment. I know we've had to like be the boss chick and make the money and orchestrate all the things and, you know, create the structure for the house. And, you know, a lot of us have not had the man to do that. And so a lot of us have been called too far into our inner masculine. And then we just have to kind of reassess a little bit, I think, because the world calls so much masculine out, and the feminine, they downplay with submission. Not that submission is a negative thing at all, but we all have that masculine and feminine in us. So, and whew, so I just wanted to share what an inspiration Jessica is to me in relationship, and like really showing up so fully in the feminine and allowing that to be the gift to the masculine in ourselves and in our partner, whether that's a male or female. Such a gift. We'll talk more on that as we go.
Yes. I didn't realize it was such a gift until I stopped trying. I stopped trying to prove myself, stopped trying to make a man believe my worth, when I stopped trying to be something that I wasn't. And it all happened when I just continued to tune back into my own sovereign heart, and led from that space that I was able to expand into the richness of this. And as I expanded into this, I realized my ability as well to hold more of the type of relationship that I so desired to feel. And it was only because that I began to live from that space of true love and what that meant, how to cherish and honor my heart, and from the space of my heart and my yoni as well. And then with this, I allowed him to lead. I allowed him to lead by stepping back into my feminine. We can lead from leading from the feminine. I think that is such a big gift of ours when we understand how to do that, because you bless him with your heart, with your love, with your sensuality. You bless him, you give him that motivation when he sees you rested in your own radiance, in what makes you happy, and how you nourish yourself, and how you bring beauty into your life. And then if he's ready, that's a whole other story. If he's ready to take that lead, he will offer you the stage. He like holds the stage for you. He takes the backstage. He doesn't need to be in the forefront, because he knows that he is going to be guided by such presence, your presence of love, your presence of this magnetic radiance that you have. And this is how men actually flourish as well. So when you feel safe is such a big thing, to fall back, let go. We like to control. We don't want to control you. When you let go and you trust him, you let the masculine lead you, because the masculine is soothing for us as well. And something that I've realized is that I did so much healing with my own masculine as well, and my own father wounds. And I developed this real rich relationship with my own presence and this how to be still with everything that I feel and that moves through me. When my partner and we started to build this beautiful union together, and this solid foundation that we grew together with our own love and awareness and consciousness and willingness, I realized that I don't have to move through everything on my own anymore. I gave him the permission to then take the lead, to then hold space for me when then I go into my darkness. Because like you said before, men are very linear. We are the ones that dip into the darkness, into the dark soils of our wombs, and we go through all these dark emotions of rage, and we feel a lot. When you know how to go in there on your own with safety and love, you show him how to then do that for you. You allow that space for him, that he then willingly he will then take the lead to then hold that for you. And if he's not, you will know in the beginning. You will know right in the beginning of the relationship. And I feel like this is all women know. We just choose not to listen. We all know when a man is willing. And I'm not saying we have to look for perfection, not at all. But I think it's more about you standing in your own knowingness, your own standards, holding yourself there in your integrity. Your heart is open, but you know your truth. And a man who is ready to really drink that truth, where he then steps into his warrior heart, and you will know if he's ready. You will see it in his willingness. You will feel it. You will see how rooted and present he can be with all that you are. And when you allow him to do this, you offer the space for men to be men. We lead the relationship. We lead him with our heart, with our ability to drop into this beautiful body of ours. And we lead him with this presence, with this knowingness, because then you allow him as well you offer him as well the space and the safety to know how to go into his own darkness, and that it's okay. I think men are very scared of this. They haven't been taught, just like us. If anything, we've been taught that it's okay to be emotional, but men have not.
Right. So what I'm getting from what you're saying also is that it's the feminine showing up in her feminine that also liberates the masculine and creates the opportunity for the masculine to hold her. And that gives masculine purpose, and it gives that juiciness of life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is how, as well, the relationship flourishes and blossoms. This is how you bring that life force within the relationship, within this entity. But it does help when we know how to do that for ourselves, when we know how to activate this juice within us, because then we show them the way. We lead them with our energy. And what that means is sweetness that we bring into the relationship, this joy and life and this soul to the fire.
It's so good talking with you because you embody that. Like we can feel it coming through the transmission, you know? And it's so wonderful. I love joining up with you on any discussion in a circle. It's always so wonderful.
Mm.
Thank you so much for your wisdom and your femininity today. Thank you for blessing us with with understanding more of femininity and how we can access it in ourselves at any time. Every woman can be feminine, every man can drop into their feminine. And this is a healing balm that's available to us all the time. You don't need a prescription, you don't need a doctor's appointment.
And I just wanted to say on top of
no
that,
medical advice given, just saying. Sorry, go ahead.
Here's a script for you, pleasure for you.
Right? You take one cookie of pleasure and call me in the morning.
Take 10 doses of these for the next week.
Totally. That's a good prescription. Keep giving this to yourself over and over and over for a week, and then see how you feel then. Let me know how you feel. Oh, yeah. What a great way to end, with a great prescription. Oh my goodness. I just wanted
to add to that little thing that you said, is to note as well that to be feminine and to be in this pleasurable sexual state does not mean that you need to be more pretty or more sexy in the eyes of what we've been taught.
And it doesn't mean you need to have more sex at all.
Right.
It doesn't mean you need to go on dates.
I can go into a whole other topic with that.
We can.
I would love to. It's more about just really honoring who you are at the depths of your soul and what that feels like and means, and and becoming the embodiment of that. Nothing else. It's just you returning back to the essence of who you are, that place inside of you that just feels yes,
that's it. That's pleasure.
This is me. Yeah. This is who I am. Yeah. And this is an endless, beautiful journey of remembering, relearning, unlayering, remembering, and continuously coming back into this place that makes you feel whole. That's what this is.
Yeah, that feels so divine, because there's this concept, there's always another layer, but we try to attack that in a masculine way, when we could actually weave it and flow with it, and we can access those layers in a gentler, more subtle feminine way that could be juicier. I don't know. There's different tools for different things. You got to try out, and see what works for you when. I just want to say you can visit Jessica's profile, and her information is there. She's also going to be joining us in the Pleasure and Sensuality group, and potentially other groups as well, as we develop more down the road. So you can follow her, you can check out her website, go to her profile, see what she's doing. She's an amazing asset to our community. So, you can connect with her there as well as her other outlets, which you can find on her profile. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been such an honor. Thank you.
Oh, I mean, we could have a debate over who's more honored, but we just won't bother. We'll just take it.
No competition here. We're both feeling honored.
We're both so freaking honored. Thank you all for watching this live stream. We had so much fun, and we hope we'll be back on again pretty soon. So thank you all, and have a blessed day.
Can't wait to show up again in here. Thank you.
Thank you.